Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Listening Post, provided by the Council for Drug-Free Youth. I'm Joy Sweeney, your host, and today we have a very special guest with us today, Laura Morris, our new project coordinator.
Special.
Yes.
That sounds better than it could be.
Well, Laura, I'm so glad you could join me today, and I just wanted you to come tell the community, first of all, who you are. I know many people already know you because you've been so involved for numerous years, but if you would just start off by telling us who you are.
Well, I always start with I'm the mother of two because I think that's the most important thing that a person can do in their lives. I have two lovely sons, 21 and 17. Oh, now 18, just turned. So that's one claim to fame. But yeah, I've been in the community about 22 years, and I moved from the New England area, and it has been a pleasure embracing Jefferson City and getting involved in a lot of nonprofit causes and corporate causes and getting to know the people of Jefferson City.
It's always an enlightening experience, isn't it? I know, I remember when we moved here, just, gleaning some of the nuances of this community. It's a beautiful town and a very, very wonderful place to live and raise a family.
It is, and they care so much about the causes that you work for. They really are a city that cares. So.
It's a very philanthropic community, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
What has your experience in the prevention world been?
Well, I started in the hotel industry, so when I came, I had a corporate background, but I found very quickly when my kids were young that there was a real problem with bullying, and I have a theater background, and so we decided to start an organization called the Second Chance Foundation, where we did preventive programs in the schools, and we did it on bullying, addictions, tobacco prevention, suicide prevention, and used to go like 300 to 500 schools a year statewide, which was wonderful. While I was doing that, I had the grand opportunity to work also with the Council for Drug-Free Youth with your prevention programs.
Yay.
So I had the pleasure of directing and working with the kids of Show Me Players and Respect and Cope and Team and a lot of the wonderful programs that Council for Drug-Free Youth has done for years. So basically prevention and children have been a passion of mine for many years, and using it through a theatrical mode because I think they learn best peer-to-peer and make it entertaining.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, entertaining programs usually do engage them, and evidence has proven that to be factual.
Yeah.
And so you kind of got started on your own and then segued into programs that were already being provided in the community through Council for Drug-Free Youth.
Yeah.
Not by me, but by the organization that has been around for over 30 years. Can you believe it?
I can't. That means that we're really young.
That's what that means.
30 years young.
So why, what prompted you to even apply to come to work full-time for
Well, because I love you, Joy, first
Yeah.
off. But secondly, I mean, it was a mission and it was a job that I absolutely loved when I did it. I only had to leave because I felt like I needed to get more of a corporate job again due to financial things going on in my life. And so every job I went to just couldn't find the passion. And when this opening opened up in helping with the grant and overseeing the mission of the grant, I just was so excited to have the opportunity, and so it's great to be back.
Yay! Well, and we love having you back. I mean, it was kind of disappointing when you had to leave because I loved your enthusiasm, and it's really a blessing to have you back and join us. So now you mentioned helping with the grant. What, if you want to explain what your role is with Council for Drug-Free Youth?
Yeah, and I'm sure you've talked about it on other shows, but very recently, Joy worked very hard on getting the drug-free grant, which is a federal grant, which allows us not to do just the in-school programs, but to really make it community-wide. So what we're both, I know we're talking to audiences out there, but what you and I are both trying to do is to get a coalition and a community-minded effort for prevention. So we can't do it alone, and we have to get everybody on the same page. And so I love working with you to try to get partnerships in the community, and get people thinking the way that we're thinking, and communicating in every nook and cranny that we can.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and that is really what the drug-free communities is what this grant is supposed to be all about. It's supposed to provide support for programs, but not actually fund programs. So we are very fortunate in our community to have, like you mentioned previously, very many philanthropic businesses and United Way and other partnerships that help us provide the programs, but now we need to make sure that we work to community-wide change the attitudes that will ultimately change the behaviors.
Absolutely. And you know, I mean, there are youth everywhere and different groups working with youth, but are we getting to them all of the time? And so a lot of our efforts now are getting with, you know, the hospitals and physicians and church groups and
Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club. We just came from there. Any group, it's all the school groups, any groups where the children feel like they're empowered and they're part of the process, as well as the parents. Because even as a parent coming back to CDFY, there was so much that I didn't know, particularly about marijuana nowadays. That it was just eye-opening for me. So we really need to be educating everybody, the whole community, on some of the new information that's coming down the pike and how it affects our children.
Right, right, and how it has already adversely impacted communities where different things have been implemented. And you know, again, it's not about legalization or decriminalization, it's about keeping our youth safe. And even the pro-marijuana organizations don't want youth to be able to have access.
Absolutely.
They understand the problems and the consequences that will impact our communities if youth have access.
Yeah, and that is our goal, is to keep youth safe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. Well, speaking of our goals, and I appreciate you segueing so nicely into that.
We're so good at these segues.
So what are some of the goals that you have coming back now that you've had a month or two under your belt? 2 months now you've been back.
Months, yeah.
Yay! What are some of them?
I think it is engaging as many partnerships as we can. You've already engaged so many in the community, but there's always more and more. And you know, in particular, the religious sector that we were talking about, getting to every single church and temple and group in town and finding out what their youth are doing, getting with the programs that would be area-wide alternatives for children to do other activities so that they're not turning to drugs and alcohol, building self-esteem in kids through the groups that we're working with. You know, entities like we said, the Boys and Girls Club. We're now working on a really neat project called, it's a YouTube video contest. Yay!
Yay!
And really, anywhere from 7th grade through high school has the opportunity to win $250 as a grand prize. And all they have to do is submit under a 2-minute YouTube video on why marijuana is harmful. It can be any format that they want. It doesn't have to be professional. It can be on a phone. But we're going to then screen those at a viewing party on October 26th at the J.C. Little Theater, the high school, to kick off Red Ribbon Week. And it gives parents, children an opportunity to see their work up on the screen, learn maybe a little bit more. And then we're going to view a very current film called The Other Side of Cannabis. And from then we will award the top 3 winners at the end of the night. So it should be a really neat night for teens, parents, and celebratory as well. So.
Yeah, well, I know I'm really looking forward to it. And we've locked down the 2nd and 3rd place prizes as well, haven't we?
Yes. Yeah, we have a $100 second prize, and the 3rd prize is a $50 gift certificate from Jefferson Bank.
So all really cash that you can spend anywhere in the community,
yeah.
So yay.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of schools that do service projects are finding that it would be a neat idea to do it as a group, and then with the money that they win, they put it towards some kind of a service issue project too. So everybody wins.
Absolutely. I love it when we can create a win-win situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, you know, some of the facts about marijuana that you've learned. I mean, share. You mentioned that you've learned many new things. What are some of them?
I always say, or we both say, today's marijuana was yesterday's tobacco, because back then we thought tobacco was so innocent, and yet we have come to find how dangerous it is. Marijuana is kind of the same thing, but the harmful effects happen over time, and so I think we haven't seen them yet. But back when I was growing up, the THC levels in marijuana, which is the mind-altering drug, was so much lower than it is now. It is so heavily concentrated now that what we're doing to our brains is far more harmful. One fact that sticks with me is that when you use marijuana, it stays in the fatty tissues of your brain and your reproductive system for 21 days. So is there moderation in use? Unless you use it once a month, which it's still in the fatty tissues of your brain. But every time you use it, you're compounding on that. And so what they're seeing over time is that a lot of people think it calms them down. It actually exacerbates anxiety and depression. Has been found to be a contributor to bipolar diseases and other things. And this is just something we don't know because we don't see it initially.
Right.
And many more facts. This is a lot of the same toxins as tobacco products, so it will affect your lungs, whether you think it will or not. And so we really have to be on top of the fact that it's not the innocent drug we think it is.
Well, and most of the media right now is promoting that it's medicinal qualities and that it's helping with epilepsy or cures cancer. I mean, I've heard, everything. Our media is promoting this product, basically free.
And it's hard to compete with that a lot of the time. So, for the efforts that we can make, we hope that people will start to get the facts that they haven't had and they're not equipped with, because it will lead to, we know, you and I know personally, of huge amount of people who have been affected by marijuana after the fact and would love to get the word out as well. So we want to catch it, since we're in prevention, before it's too late.
Well, and that's why we're starting our testimonial campaign.
Absolutely. Good idea, Joy. Thank you for the transition into that. Yes, one of the big things that we're doing is we have a very smart publicity committee, and so we are going to be doing a mass media campaign starting in October and to follow through the whole grant year. It will be multimedia, so we'll try to get them in every medium that we can. And some really exciting articles coming up in City Magazine and the Tribune and other modes. It will be
and
radio,
Sports
television.
Locker.
Sports Locker, yeah.
The new magazine for the sporting community,
Absolutely.
Athletics. And so, and really, anybody who has a testimony or anything like that, we'd love to contact Council for Drug-Free Youth. We'd love it if they could be involved and help and get involved, and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
I've got several more questions to ask you, but we do need to take a little brief break here. So we'll go ahead and take a break, and then I'll come back and talk to Laura about how the community and our youth can get involved, as well as some of the ways that different substances have adversely impacted her life. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. 2 o'clock. Okay.
Your employees who serve in the National Guard and Reserve may seem different. They may work a little harder, be more confident, more willing to make the extra effort to get the job done right. So when your employees need time off to serve, remember, it's not just good for our country, it's good for your business.
Glad you could all make it.
Laura says we should start worrying about drinking at these things.
You're only 12.
I know. I'm just glad you know better, sweetheart.
You're too smart for that, right, honey?
Real kids are curious about alcohol. 40% tried by the 8th grade. Talk early, talk often, get others involved.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us today with the edition of the Listening Post provided by Council for Drug-Free Youth. Again, Laura Morris, our project coordinator, is with me today, and we were just talking about testimonials and how people in the community can get involved. And I know that as we've discussed it and as you've been involved again, every time we go out and talk to somebody, they either have a personal story or a story of a friend or a story of somebody else they know whose life has been adversely impacted by either marijuana or alcohol or heroin or prescription drug, one of the many illicit substances that are affecting our youth and our communities today.
Absolutely. They're just coming out of the woodwork, and I don't think people understand the percentage of people who are affected. You were saying personally, I mean, I know friends whose children at very young ages are already, their lives have taken a path where I'm not sure they're ever going to come out of some of the addictions that they're dealing with. I know family members who have dealt with difficult alcohol addictions, marijuana addictions. It's just a problem that is overwhelming.
Well, and the thing that you just mentioned, it doesn't just affect the person who's addicted. Mm-hmm. It affects so many other people. It's just the impact is so much greater than just the person who's addicted. And
Absolutely.
And what kind of behaviors did you observe in relation, or have you heard of other people since you've been back that have talked about in relation to substance abuse or substance use?
Well, I think they're all in agreement that this is such an overwhelming problem that they can't do it on their own. And what is the answer? And that's what's so difficult for everybody. And that's why it takes a community. But I think, you know, they've seen mood swings, they've seen lying, they've seen health issues, they've seen dropping out of school, they've seen lack of interest in things, and you know, some have lost lives, and it's painful to see, it's awful to see, and there's just has to be a way for us to turn this around.
Absolutely. And you know, I just had lunch today with a little girl that I mentor, and you know, she was talking about how you know, her boyfriend's friend, her boyfriend's brother actually, was just arrested for substance and just, I mean, recently was involved in was shot in a hospital and still wasn't changing their ways. Mm-hmm. And again, it has to do with addiction.
Absolutely.
That they don't recognize, or they're too addicted. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess not recognizing isn't the problem, because addiction, just like any other disease, is a disease.
It's a disease. And we often say it makes good people do things they wouldn't regularly do.
Absolutely.
We're not really blaming the addict. It's that addiction is awful. And so you can't become addicted to something you don't do. So if you just don't start to begin with, we're all good.
Can you describe any cause or effect from in your experience or in the experiences that you've heard of from loved ones or family members or people that friends?
You mean in terms of
the cause and effect of substance use or misuse, abuse?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the kinds of things that I mentioned, that, you know, they see health issues, that they see suicides, that they see, you know, directions that their lives have taken, families that fall apart, divorces, job problems. The list goes on and on and on and on.
Right.
And we know, you know, many people that you've had on as testimonies already, Jim Marshall and many other people.
Their guy, yeah.
I mean, your heart just goes out to whatever the addiction is. It's not a good choice to make.
The stories are just so compelling.
They are.
And you know what? It seems like it's so preventable. Why are we having such a hard time preventing this? Why can't we as a community have the attitude that this behavior is inappropriate and everybody just gets it and nobody doesn't understand? I don't know.
Well, I think you hit it on the head where you said, you know, a lot of the media works against that. A lot of our television programs work against that. If you look at what kids are watching nowadays, most of the movies promote, you know, sex and drug use, and as a funny thing, and if you could stand back objectively and go, oh, well, that's funny, that's one thing, but I don't think that kids can discern a lot of that, and so they take it as it's socially okay, it's socially acceptable, as do, you know, a lot of the adults in the movies. So media has a huge presence.
Well, and you hit on a very good point. We were just looking at a graph the other day. I don't mean the social acceptability as that rises. I mean, as the perception of harm decreases, the use rises. So
right.
The more that kids see it being socially acceptable and they perceive the harm going down, they start using and the rates increase.
Well, and you hit it on the head that perception. And what we're finding is like parents' perception, even myself, before I learned some things. I mean, a lot of the time you think, oh, they only smoke pot, they're not on heroin, or they're just drinking and just a little bit. Oh, high schoolers do that. But what we're learning statistically is parents who believe that that is harmless and not that bad, it really does lead to all the other things. I think Jim Marshall said prescription drugs is the #1 reason why children are, there's a big heroin epidemic. So we have to take seriously that it's not just pot, it's not just hosting in your home because you don't want them on the road, because they're gonna drink anyway. We have to be the role models that say, no, this is bad for your life, it's gonna lead to bad things, I don't support it.
Right.
And then stand by that.
Right. Those dismissive attitudes are what lead them to the behaviors because they don't think that their parents, and I read an interesting statistic just this morning that 12% of parents think that it's not that big a deal for their youth to, smoke marijuana or drink, just those two. But 37% of teens think that their parents wouldn't have a problem with it. So even though it's only a small number of parents that actually don't really think it's that big of a deal or don't think it's as dramatic as doing other things, which the teen perception is almost triple
Absolutely.
what the parental attitude is.
And
So-
I think we think teens that they're already making up their own mind and they're rebellious, that they're not going to listen to us. But to me, it's like good discipline. I mean, I remember with my kids, you'd say the same thing over and over and over again. Don't touch the stove, stay away from this, whatever it may be. And you think, oh, they're not listening, they're not listening. Well, later on in life, all of a sudden, they're spewing the same things that you said when you thought they weren't listening. And I really do believe that if we continue to say, we love you, to our children, and we want you to have happy lives, and this is why I want you to be equipped with this information, and no, I don't want you partaking in things that's bad for you, and we stand by it, it will penetrate even if they reject it when we say it, and it will eventually catch up with them when they're
Connect.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think if you do it in a punitive way, I mean, that's the other thing. You and I are going to start kind of parent education classes.
Right, the PAC 360 program.
Yeah. And what we're learning is really, it can't be a mandate. When they reach a certain age, they are going to make their own decisions. So if you mandate, it tends to backflash on you. But if you do it through love and concern.
Well, and one of my big things when I first came into this, I'm like, it's all you have to do is get a clue. And my acronym for clue is communication, love, understanding, and education.
Did you come up with that? Yeah. That is darn good. We need that in our next ad. Get a clue. I love it.
Well, and it was just like, oh, yeah. I mean, I thought it was pretty clever, but, oh, clever me. But, I mean, it's just one of those things that it was like, okay, this is how I can affect change in the world. And that's really, I mean, everything that I've ever done has always been about helping the youth in whatever community I've been involved in, through PTO, through schools, through whatever. And Council for Drug-Free Youth for me was just another avenue to help our youth and help parents. I mean,
Absolutely.
parents, we all need help too. I mean, I am not professing to be the perfect parent here.
That's what I was saying. I learned when I came back to Council for Drug-Free Youth, I was one of those parents that was kind of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It could be worse. I can't tell them what to do, with our own kids. And our kids are great kids. It's just most of them just have to be better equipped, and we have to be the ones to do it. And so,
we have to have tools, and we have to provide parents with resources as well.
Which is a good transition into our PAC 360. Would you like to talk about PAC 360?
I would love to. Would you like to tell me about it?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. And we're training on it ourselves. But basically, for any groups or individuals, parents, I mean, we all want what's best for our children, and we're scared. I'm scared. So we are now kind of launching parent education. It is specific to the substance.
Right.
So if people would like to get trained on this themselves or attend any venue where we're going to be facilitating it, we'd love to train as many facilitators as possible so that, again, it's just in every nook and cranny. But it's called PAC 360, and we will have that available as well after we get trained ourselves.
We're planning a release or a launch, I guess, the end of October. So hopefully you'll be watching our website. You can go to JC for Jefferson City, CDFY, Council Drug Free Youth.org, and check out our website, or you can call us at 636-2411 and get all the information that you need about this PAC 360 and when our next training will be.
Absolutely.
And where other people will be training, because that's the other good thing, is that it can't all just come from us. It has to come from other resources within the community. So if you're the leader of a youth group or a Boy Scout troop or whatever, and you want a Girl Scout troop, excuse me, didn't mean to eliminate anybody, and you want information about this, we'd love to share it with you. We'd love to share the resources. It's all free. It's all about helping our youth, helping our parents, helping us as a community stay drug-free, keep our youth drug-free.
Yeah.
And because we know that if they are, they'll make better choices, they'll have more successful lives, and their lives will be more fulfilling and joyful, and it'll be good. It'll be good.
That's what we all want. And one more plug, if you want to get involved with the video YouTube contest, they could also go to the website, jccdfy.org.
Yeah, and what would you impart to others about the dangers of drugs and what we can do about keeping our youth safe?
I just think that, we have to look into why are we here and what do we want our futures to be. And if we truly want our futures to be happy and healthy, we need to think about what we do to our bodies and our minds to create that. And so everybody has the choice to make good choices, and it's individual. So it's up to the individual is really what I would impart. And we hope that we can help everybody to make good choices.
In what ways can we engage our community in the fight against drugs?
Well, you can join our coalition. The more the merrier.
Absolutely.
We certainly don't pretend that we can do it by ourselves. And so our coalition is already made up of so many fantastic community members. We have law enforcement and lawyers and all sorts of entities. But we could use more and more. So if you want to call us, 573-636-2411, we can tell you more about the coalition and get you involved. If you want to get involved in the projects that we're doing around town, next year we're planning maybe a mural that we're going to paint with youth sometime and somewhere.
and you know what? If anybody out there has an idea that they think that we should implement, we'd love to have you come help us implement it. Bring it to the table, and we'll share it, and we'll try and engage other partners and collaborate with other community members. Because really, in order to make this effective, it really has to be a collaborative initiative.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely.
And I know that you and I have had many conversations, and we're both just kind of, yes, it's a mind meld, and we're on the same page, and I'm so eager and enthusiastic to have you on board. I'm so grateful that you're back.
Thanks for taking me back.
I never wanted you to leave, okay? And we would love to have more community partners at the table. We are looking for testimonies. We are looking for YouTube videos. We are looking for coalition members. Anybody who believes in this mission, believes in the cause, and knows that we can keep our youth drug-free if we work together, and wants to be part, or just wants to come to one meeting and find out what's going on, or share something about what they're doing, we'd love to have you join us. Please don't hesitate to give us a call at 573-636-2411, or stop by our offices at 306 Jefferson Street.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add?
We might even have candy available.
Yeah. Any other tidbits of information that you can share? Or think of
I'm just tidbitted out. I have no more tidbits other than we would love as much involvement as possible.
There we go. And thank you again for watching this edition of the Listening Post, brought to you by Council for Drug-Free Youth.